The Badge to the Bone podcast contains adult language, mature themes, psychological nudity. Viewer discretion is advised. The opinions expressed here are ours and ours alone. Buckle up.
All right, welcome back to Badge of the Bone podcast. I'm Denny.
I'm Al.
Al, we got another episode.
Yeah, we do. I think it's going to be a good one.
I know it's going to be a good one. I'm excited.
All right, let's get on it.
I've given up on society, up on my family, up on your social disease. I've given up on the industry, up on democracy.
Al,
Hey,
well, it's good to be back in here.
yeah,
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good weekend, and we're recording on a weekend this time.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Definitely makes for a good weekend. Struggling with some allergy mess today, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, kind of stuffy. I think maybe the cool evenings and then back to the blazing heat has wreaked havoc with my already horrible allergies. But otherwise,
But
show must go on.
Yeah, and you're doing it right because you're not out there putting yourself in the allergies. I can look outside and I can see your youngest hard at work.
Yes, and we're to get him working today in the yard, which is nice.
That's the best thing for preventing allergy problems.
Having the youngest do the
Yeah,
work. Yeah, I like it.
exactly.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So it's good. But man, I think we got something good in store today.
I do. We actually got somebody in house.
So I'm going to try. You know, we've already talked about this on pronouncing his last name. I'll try not to butcher it again here. But we've got Greg Podolak.
Close.
Oh, so you
Podolak.
messed it up.
Yeah,
Podolak.
there we go.
Oh, man, there we go. So, and I'm just going to read a little bit because he's got an extensive list of credentials, and then he'll go into that. But Greg is with Half Wild Blended First Responder Clinician, Virginia Association of Law Enforcement Mental Health Resource Director, Reboot First Responders Instructor, and Virginia First Responders Support Services Peer Support Specialist. So, man, very heavy on the peer support specialists. And, you know, really, we're going to dive into what this show is about today with, you know, mental health and mental wellness.
Yeah, and you know, before the show, we were talking to him, and he's got such an extensive background that I think we're going to let him talk about it.
I think so. So, Greg, welcome to Badge of the Bone podcast.
Thank y'all. Thank you for having me. I'm
Great
so
to have you
excited.
here.
So excited.
So, we talked about it a little bit. Give us some of your background.
Sure. So, I mean, off of my resume, I'm a cool guy. That's the most important thing. No, yeah. So, I kind of have an interesting lived experience, an interesting story. I come from a public safety sector family. My dad was a cop, NYPD back in the 80s, was hurt, had to retire. 9/11 happened, was the first responder down there. He got hurt with a neck injury, which had pretty profound impacts on our family as a whole. Everyone, including, you know, me, my brother, my dad, my mom. Unfortunately, a few months ago, he was diagnosed with cancer related to 9/11. So 22 years later, his bullshit's still wreaking havoc on people.
Yeah.
So there's that. My brother's a cop in Central VA. I moved down here to become a cop in 2018 in Central VA. Things didn't pan out when I saw what was going on with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, the aftermath especially. What I envisioned myself, and I know it sounds so corny, but I think that I wanted to really engage with the community and kind of establish some sort of credibility and make, look, we're not here to break down doors, we're not here to further this divide. We're here to help protect and serve you guys, but that requires you guys to help us, right? Mm-hmm. Especially in this, like in Southside Richmond, right? In these housing projects, Gilpin, Mosby, areas that are plagued by violence. And what I saw going on as an aftermath from Taylor and Floyd, I was like, well, I can't be the cop I want to be. So I was like, all right, I have 3 weeks to decide what I'm going to do because I had gotten my bachelor's degree in social work with minor in psychology. And my girlfriend was like, hey, why don't you look into that stuff, like mental health with first responders? And I never put 2 and 2 together. And I was like, yeah, well, let me just do it. So I ended up going to VCU, got my master's degree in clinical social work through the advanced standing program.
With the VALE event coming up, you're attached like with most of the folks that are participating. So which one are you going to be at? Because you're like all the logos I see on their advertisement. You're like part of all those logos. Where are we going to find you there? I mean, you're going to be all over.
I'm going to be floating around. Yeah, you're going to see my ugly face just floating around. I'll be, doing my thing.
Our ugly mugs are going to be there too. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I think what's fascinating, I've spoken to, we could talk about how a lot of people are interested about how I started this wellness event next month. Because it took 3 weeks, and I got the whole thing done. I had nothing to base it off of. I just had an idea,
really,
some White Claws, and I said, all right, we're gonna get this done. Yeah, it took 3 weeks from start to finish, which is wild.
That took 3 weeks.
Yep,
because it looks huge.
Yeah, 3 weeks. And I'm sorry, I kind of sidetracked myself. I've spoken to people. We have people coming from out of state. We have someone from Georgia, Alabama, one from Carolina, 2 from DC, Arlington border, as well as many in Central VA, but even out west, like Harrisonburg, things like that. We have a wide spectrum of people coming, and what I find really, the goal is to do it 2 to 3 times a year. And this could look like many different, we're doing it at 511 in Short Pump. And again, this is going to be informational, solely based on informational. Again, fundraising, donations, raffles allowed. Let's talk. And again, it's such a niche thing. People are like, yeah, just tell us when and where. We're good.
Well, it's encouraging that there was so much positive response. I think I'm hoping that's a sign that there is progress being made,
Oh yeah. I mean, Greg's here today and he's young enough to be my kid. but again, you go back to, when we started our careers, and these were not
a wellness event. They go, what the hell is a wellness event?
What the hell is wellness?
Is that eating salad and vegetables and stuff? Yeah. What is a wellness event? Yeah. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
I mean, these conversations just weren't had.
And we're excited to be there.
Oh, we're thrilled.
Yeah. I mean, awesome.
I didn't know our logo was going to be on the t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
I love it. I got one. I've got one coming. I can't wait till it's here. I'm probably going to wear it out wearing it every day.
Well, I think that, again, like I love that y'all are so willing, and I think that, again, we have to redefine and reimagine what wellness looks like. There's something pretty fucking cathartic about going to a pile, whether it's being a guest or just listening, to be like, oh crap, people have gone through what I've gone through. Oh,
yes,
cool.
Yes.
And I think that, again, redefining what wellness looks like. This is a form of wellness, in my opinion. I will die on, this is the hill I'm willing to die on, making the argument that this is a form of wellness that could help public safety.
Well, and this project, what we're doing right now with this podcast, I mean, it's cathartic for us.
It is. I mean, it really has been. We enjoy it just on that aspect. We kind of started in that, hey, well, if only 2 people listen, if mom and dad are the only ones that are listening,
Mm-hmm.
and so we are getting something out of it ourselves. But that's not been the case. So we've had a lot of really good support.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier about some other things you were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and there's kind of a project you're working on with law enforcement agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if it was strictly law enforcement, just
Mm-hmm.
any first responder agency, but I think it had along with you participating.
Mm-hmm.
Can talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So in my last semester of grad school, I was I collaborated with Richmond Ambulance Authority, excuse me, and I was on an ambulance with them for close to 6 months on an ALS and a BLS crew, doing overnights twice a week. So I was literally up for 24 hours back to back and going straight to grad school. So the amount of burnout and just weird things that happened. But yeah, essentially, one of the things that I want to do personally, and this is also ties into the wellness event, it's really important to have a presence with public safety, whether it's police, fire, comms, corrections, nursing, retired, auxiliary. Even if you were in a department where nothing happened and you're just doing overnights, even just disruption in sleep cycle is going to have an impact on you. It just is. That's just how the brain works, right? Brain and body work. So that is something that has always, been really particular area of interest. I'm also kind of a sadist. I love adrenaline and chaos. I do. I can tell you horror stories from Richmond Ambulance, seeing people with their faces blown off, like it's nothing, having people die in front.
Sure.
Yeah. Wild stuff. And again, this is like second nature to these people down there, unfortunately, this is their way of life. But the absurdity of it is what, not so much even like the graphic nature of things that I've seen, but the absurdity of it is what kind of, I can't process. The fact that, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off on a tangent. I'll get back to the fact that someone could lose their life in a housing project at 17. I'm 28, because of drugs or gang, like it's my turf. Like I can't, it doesn't make sense to me.
And
Right.
it's good that you bring that up, because I think that is a a contributing factor to trauma is that why?
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Mhm.
It makes it
And-
hard to categorize or to process it
Yeah.
in your mind if you don't have that why or anything behind it. It's just, you can't, like I say, it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
No, and
It doesn't make sense.
and that's the screwed up nature of this, right? If you were to actually like step away and process this, you're going to come out and say this is just violence. Like this is
Mhm.
violence, breakdown of society, family, government failure, etc. That's not good, right? That's really shitty. But if you don't process it, then what? Like, you know what I mean? Like there's no winning from it. Obviously, processing it's better than not. I used to, like, for me personally, because I was up for 24 hours back to back, just seeing nothing but death. I have coined acknowledging, not processing. So I would just acknowledge, oh yeah, this is a person with their face blown off. This is the person that was holding my hand when they died, whatever the case may be. This is the mom who's crying in front of us
Mhm.
because they lost their son. Oh yeah, it sucks. Move on. Cool. What am I going to eat for lunch today? Because you have to. You literally have to do that. It's one of two, and it's really unfortunate.
first responders, you know, they go through exactly what you talked about. And then they go home, they get whatever sleep they can get,
Mhm.
and they wake up and they're having to be spouse, they're having to be dad, you know, they're having to go to soccer practice, and it's like nothing happened. And oftentimes I think you don't have that ability to process
Mhm.
because you
Yes.
don't have the decompression time.
Yes.
Then you just kind of fall into that acknowledgement aspect of it,
Mhm.
that the acknowledgement side, and you end up never processing it, and then it compounds over time. So I think that is an excellent
Well, I think
point.
that not processing what you have seen or experienced is big on the mental health. And there was a conference I went to, and I wish I could remember who explained it, but you talk about your mind having to kind of file things, having
Yeah.
to process and file things. And I don't, and Greg, I don't know if you remember, there was a TV show called The Price is Right.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so Price is Right. Everybody knows Price is Right. So, and this was explained to me at a conference. It didn't come from me, but I wish I could give credit. I don't remember who said it, but they said a good way to think about when you're trying to process trauma is there's a game on there where it's like a big, huge pegboard, and the person walks up at the very top of it, they drop like a disc,
Mhm.
and it bounces through the pegs, and at the bottom it falls into one of what you win or whatever, and they just drop it down there and draw you, okay, $1,000 or $500. But every now and then you'll see when they'll drop that disc and it'll bounce back between the pegs and it'll get caught,
Mhm.
it'll get stuck. And they said that's what's happening. It's, those are the files at the bottom, and you're seeing things. Some of them are getting down there and getting filed away like they should, but some incidents, some things you experience, the disc is getting caught in those pegs and it's not getting filed, and so you're not getting any resolve.
And your brain is designed
Mhm.
to try to make
Yep.
sense of everything,
Yeah.
to try
Yeah.
to make structure
Yes.
out of things that you are experiencing or that you're seeing. There's a concept, for example, called pareidolia, and it's, you just see shapes or colors, and your mind automatically wants to make that into a face
Mm.
Sure. Yep.
because that's how your mind wants to make order out of chaos.
Right.
And
Sure.
if it can't make order out of chaos,
Yeah.
the problems start.
And it's like that's a perpetual cycle, right? Like for public safety, again, just say, I was like, when I was giving my little spiel, I was thinking of if the provider was single. Imagine, like you said, if they're a husband, a wife, they have
Mhm.
kids, they have other obligations. Again, you don't have the time, and that kind of goes back to like if you process it, if we process what happened,
Yep.
it's going to make you feel really shitty, sad, and hate the world. If you don't, it's not good either. So it's really, that's why people like me exist. People like me exist to help navigate through, because I know what it's like. I've gone through the motions of, again, seeing the worst of humanity on many occasions. I know the sleep deprivation, the adrenaline spikes, dumps. I'm sorry. So one of the things that I want to do, so my title right now, in addition to all the stuff that we talked about earlier, those are all VALE. I'm all volunteer, like VALE, Reboot, Peer Support. That's all volunteer. My actual job that I'm getting compensated for, I am going to be a blended clinician for first responders. Now, what that looks like, I'll be doing one-on-one therapy with first responders. Additionally, and this is where I think I have been able already to, establish a rapport and to an extent a pretty good reputation, I think, with departments in Central VA. And this is open to all police, fire, EMS. I would love to do stuff with communications and corrections, but those obviously those are much different. So I got to figure out how to get in there, but I will. and even nurses I have to figure out. But anyways, I want to pretty much just ride with departments wherever, whenever, to establish a presence, to establish a credibility rapport. I'm not just some schmuck, observing you. I'm not going to be there with the clipboard. I'll be there experiencing what you guys go through. The only difference is that hopefully you trust me, the person trusts me, the provider trusts me, and I welcome the apprehension and uncertainty at first. Go for it, please. That'll facilitate conversation. Let me prove to you that I'm not, again, just here, saying, hey, once we're done with this, hey, we saw 2 homicides. You have post-traumatic. That's what I'm doing. I'm literally just there as a person to help out if I need to be. I don't care what you call me, a weirdo, a schmuck. I don't care. Those are all compliments to me. But for any department listening, anywhere throughout the Commonwealth, and Baltimore is the exception. If I get into Baltimore PD especially, that's like my dream. Because again, I would love to experience what they go through. Love it.
That's a busy place right there.
So let's talk a little bit about how do you navigate that trust issue in that type of environment with the providers?
Mhm.
Because, cops, for example, are notoriously cynical, and
Yeah.
No.
and so
That's news to me.
so if the boss comes down and goes, hey, this guy Greg, he's a therapist, he's going to ride with you for your entire tour tonight, I'm going to go, what's going on here? And on the flip side of that, you may have executive level bosses that are going, I need you to report back on my people.
Sure.
How are you dealing with that dynamic?
Sure. So again, a little unfair because excuse me, because I already have kind of established myself, especially with certain departments in Central VA. So I already have a leg up. People know who I am. However, it doesn't mean what you're saying is not going to happen. I can guarantee it's going to happen at some point, whether it's police, fire, EMS. With fire, all they do is cook. I don't, so I don't like just talking.
They have sleepovers.
They have sleepovers, and
They do.
They cook chili, and so that'll be the easiest one.
Pillow fights,
mustaches.
Go to the grocery store and make sure the list gets all taken care of. They buy everything.
Anytime I see where I live, especially there's a bunch of grocery stores, and I always see the local house come, big burly guys, mustaches, tats, and they have a small grocery list, and it just makes me laugh. I always laugh. I'm like, yeah, this is but yeah, no, I'm like, oh,
all you firefighters out there, just relax, settle down.
We still love you.
Yeah,
but we got to pick on you.
But no, so I think that, and you're right. One of the many things that I've heard many criticisms about public safety as a whole, their interactions with mental health professionals, whether it's a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, whomever, a chaplain, and what becomes pretty apparent to me rather quickly, and they don't say this out loud, but what I pick up is that there's the obvious if they don't understand, right? People are not willing to ingrain themselves in the culture fully, which fair enough. You don't have to. That's not, as a mental health professional, you have the abilities to say no, but I think you kind of have to for this profession. But also, I kind of get the idea of like a power struggle to an extent, because just say you have Officer John Doe who comes in, his degree, just he has a 2-year degree in criminal justice, right? You have 5+ years as a clinical social worker, right? Specializing in trauma. There's already there's a differential there, right? And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people as a mental health professional, they're the know-it-all. So they'll come in and it turns people up, because again, there's a power dynamic, and it's just weird. And I've heard that from a lot of people, like, oh, immediately they didn't find, I've heard people say, yeah, I laughed at a story I told when it was really horrific. And I would see on their face that they were emoting a certain way. That's what I'm talking about. You're not culturally competent. It's a power dynamic, because you're like, oh, this is not professional. So that's number one. And I obviously don't, the way I interact with public safety is much different. I curse, I get vulnerable. I don't emote. I have the ability to utilize interpersonal skills in a different way. You'd be amazed at what just saying, oh, wow, that fucking sucks goes a long way. So there's that. But also, I think, you'll, and I don't have an ego, but from what people have told me rather quickly is that people are able to sense that I'm a different person. I always get called a unicorn, and that's the biggest compliment I can get, because people know that, one, if shit hits the fan, I'll be there for them. I got their back. I don't care what it is. I don't care if I have to chase someone. I don't give a shit. But they also know that I'm willing to stay up for 12, 14 hours, go through the cycles and motions. That's an odd thing, right? The fact that I'm willing to do that resonates with people. So it's kind of implied that it's almost implied that my motives are, you know what I mean? Like that's just established. So I think I've unlocked it again. I know I'm going to get pushed back, and I welcome it. Please, if you're uncertain and I'm with you, please push back, interrogate me. I don't give a shit. I'll talk to you. We'll have a conversation.
Well, I mean, I will say that you definitely don't, trying to figure out the right way to, you don't come across as a therapist.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a negative way. You come across as a regular guy.
Yeah.
Regular fellow.
Yep.
And I do think that goes a long way with particularly your first responder, particularly the cops. I mean,
Yep.
and I speak because that's most of my experience, but if you come up, if right off the bat they're feeling therapist, it's already like, okay,
Yep.
I don't want to say the wrong thing, or man, is he riding with me because I'm getting ready to be on admin leave, or what?
Well, exactly. You have to
yeah.
have that.
Yep.
You have to build that trust.
Yep.
I think you have to navigate that like you said, that power imbalance or perception of power imbalance. And you have to get to where the therapist is not the guy that you got to go to on your off day, who's down the long hallway in the medical office building, you know, who's going to sit there and just, you know, stare at you with a notepad in his hand.
Yep.
You know, I almost, I'm going to go to a movie to reference to. I'm trying to, you know, I think you have a great idea with that. And I think we mentioned this earlier, that it's a long game goal. It's not a short term, I'm going to ride today or tomorrow and everything's going to be hunky dory and all these guys are going to think I'm great. It's that long term where they see you so often and know that when you ride, you're not there with the clipboard. You're not hovering over it. No, you're just there to meet. You're there to see what they're seeing, experience it, and hopefully get some trust down the line. So when they do, hey, you know, I'm gonna reach out to Greg. You know, I mean, he's come to this shift a couple of times, and I'm gonna reach out to him. But I almost ever seen the movie We Were Soldiers?
Oh, one of my favorites.
Okay, great movie. You remind me of, I'm trying to remember his name, the photographer,
Gallagher.
the journalist.
Yeah,
Gallagher.
Yep.
That he, you know, his family had that background of service and military, and he thought, you know, I can't really understand a war, and he felt like his role was maybe, well, he can't, you know, really change a war or anything like that, but he thought maybe he could understand it through that position there and understand it better,
and could present it to the people back home.
Help them understand it. And that's kind of like what you're doing. You know, you looked at jumping in that first line, but it wasn't quite the fit. It wasn't, but now it's like through this, you know, no, you're not going to be answering a call for service, but maybe through what you do, you can help the folks that are dealing with those things. That's just what I kind of compare you to. I think it's that different perspective of, I'm going to be right there with you, but I've got a different mission. Yeah.
How cool would it be to be like, hey, I need to talk to somebody. Oh, remember that really terrible call I ran last week? Oh, Greg was with me. He knows what it's like. He saw it. He saw it. He saw it. He knows the adrenaline. Like, he knew what was going on. He saw the absurdity of it. Let me talk to him. Yeah, that's not like a theory that took 12 years for me to come up with. I feel like I'm just trying to look at the problem differently and willing to ingrain myself. And you know,
I think that makes a difference if you talk about it. And if I'm talking to you about a call and I go, man, I remember when I walked up and I saw this, and you're like, oh yeah, I saw that, and it was that was pretty bad. Or I could smell this there. Or I remember the person screaming in the back. You know, I just remember that, and you're like, yeah, I remember seeing that, and that was definitely tough. But it does give you that kind of common ground, I guess. Al, is that or makes it relatable, maybe?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And but what I keep hearing is this goal to integrate mental health into an agency's day-to-day operations rather than the old model of, oh, you need some help and I got to send you to our contractor or whatever. Right. No, you're just as much of day-to-day operations as the fleet manager, the training division, logistics, whatever it is. You're part of day-to-day operations.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I also like the idea of you being out there. And granted, I know you can't be 24/7, so you know, it can't be every shift. Sure. The fact that you're on a certain shift at a certain time, and when something really bad occurs, that really bad, or you know this is going to be a really bad one, that hopefully whoever you're riding with going, you know what, let's go respond to that.
Yep.
Because I think that's something we need to go down. And you're right there.
Yeah.
Visually right there with those officers dealing with that incident. Now, whether even anybody has to talk to you after or not, but the fact that you're there
Yep.
and you're seeing what they're seeing
You're
as they're
bonded.
seeing it, I think that can make a difference.
You're literally bonded. Like you're literally bonded about whatever thing, whether it's a sight, sound, whatever the case may be. Oddly enough, one of the calls that screwed me up, excuse me, one of the more traumatic things that which is saying a lot because I've seen a lot of death, didn't even involve a dead person. It would just involve screams, and it freaked me out. Like for a while, yeah. So it's like, I also don't want people to hear this and be like, oh, it's only going to a critical call. Like no, it could be a sight, a sound, a smell. Think of your senses. What are you picking up on? And I want people to also know that like if you're triggered by a certain sound again or a smell, that's okay. That's normal. That's a very normal response to something that could have happened.
The other thing I'm thinking about how this will play out. I'm thinking about when I was in my position on PD and how this would play out. Near the end, when I was in LT, we had 2 teenagers hit and killed by a train. It was pretty bad, real bad. And it happened at the end of shift. And I'd called which you've been an LT that does the peer support there, and I told them peer support's got to come out. But we ran into an issue of now we're pushing 14 hours these folks. So I'm like, do we bring them out now and hold them out another 2 hours, or we just go ahead and let people get home and first thing tomorrow morning we come back? And that's what I went with. I still don't know whether that was the right decision or not, but I had concern over getting this 14th and 15th hour and the fatigue, and so but I could tell by looking at the faces. I could tell by the way they're talking, that the officers when they were talking, that we need to have a debrief on this, some sort of debrief. But I think about that, having you there, if you could do that debrief, right away is great. But the other part, I remember when we did do the debrief and we had the doctor come in, nobody wants to be that first person to really start talking. You're sitting around, everybody's kind of, so usually that whose facility is going to start by saying something. And I don't remember what he said, but it's probably something along, you guys definitely responded to a tough scene. And sometimes when you respond to these things, you might be feeling this, and that's all fine and dandy. Your perspective would be, if you're going to have to start that conversation, I was just there.
Yep.
So, okay, I know it's tough. Let me tell you what I saw.
Yep.
Or let me tell you what I experienced. And that is, as opposed to the outside guy telling people what you may be experiencing, I'm going to tell you what I experienced.
Yep.
And that's going to get that conversation going.
Yeah.
But that puts a question up.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm not saying this is what I think. I'm just,
go ahead.
I've worked around enough command staff level people to know this question is going to come up. You're integrated into the operations. So you are quite possibly experiencing this same incident in real time with the first responders.
Correct.
Okay. How do you ensure that your head is in the right place?
That's a good question.
To
I know you're
treat
going there.
them.
Yeah.
Or are you, and I'll
because you have to unpack too.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to unpack too.
So how do I as a senior boss go, Greg's not another, mental health casualty.
Sure.
Greg is in a position to help in real time.
So a couple things that my brain kind of just goes to immediately. One, you're absolutely right. Like that's the most valid, and if there's one question I'd want a soup to ask me, it's that. Like, how do you make sure you're good so you help our providers? Yeah, fair game. I am fortunate enough to have such a large cohort of people in my circle that I can confide in, whether it's family, friends, peers, fellow reboot people, fellow VALE people, fellow peer support people I went to school with, people I work with. I'm able to keep tabs, especially when, and we could get into this, because I kind of really burned out when I was in an ambulance towards the end, especially because of that, what's like, everything that was going on between seeing death, school, field placement, work, trying to manage a relationship, and on top of all that, I really hit rock bottom rather quickly. So that's one, and I would hope that they would put trust in. Like, if you're going to assume that I can't, I'm sure some people are going to say, "Oh, it's just not possible." Then, like, maybe that's a referendum on you and your abilities, maybe, like, or your inability to facilitate conversations or provide more morale to people. If you're that cynical, I don't think a leader should be that cynical. They should be open and willing to trust. Obviously, you don't trust anyone and everybody who's coming in, but again, I think that I'm able to project what I want to do, my intentions, motivations in a different way than just, again, coming in like, hey, we're going to diagnose half your fucking workers with post-traumatic stress, and we're going to put them all on admin leave because they can't, that's not what's going on. Secondly, and this is, again, as weird as it sounds, but, because, again, I am a bit of a sadist, I find it fascinating to, like, just me personally, I find it fascinating to kind of rethink about things, especially when they're traumatic in nature. But what I would always do, especially on the ALS side, because BLS, I didn't really see a whole lot of wild stuff. ALS is where things kind of went, rightfully so, especially when you're only ALS provider in the whole city of Richmond. Like, it's wild.
It's frightening that they would only have one.
Yeah, and it hasn't changed, by the way, people. We would get in after whatever we had to do. I would literally say, well, that fucking sucked. You're not saying, tell me about it, guys. Wow, right. You're gonna experience maybe a flashback in 24-48. Like, it's not, that fucking sucked. And I have no problem, at least for me personally, I have no problem talking ad nauseum just to get someone, even if they don't say much, to know that I am willing to open up. I think there is kind of comfort, like, okay, even like if someone internally is like, oh, I'm feeling really stressed about this terrible thing I just saw, Greg's feeling the same way. Like, even just that, there's something there, I think, that we don't think about enough. But to know that, again, you're not alone in this.
Well, I think, Al, that is such a good point, because that different dynamic, typically a therapist would need to unpack anyway.
Sure.
But typically what you're experiencing, you're going to be experiencing that vicarious trauma, that secondhand vicarious trauma. But your model is you're getting it firsthand, so you're experiencing the trauma firsthand. So I do think it's definitely important that you have that plan to make sure you are unpacking the things you're seeing as well.
Well, the thing that I keep hearing when you're talking is self-awareness.
Yep.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah. And we don't always have it.
No.
But you do, your training, your background.
Yes.
I think helps ground you in that self-awareness so that you can process what you're experiencing, but at the same time, not compromise your ability to help.
Yeah. I think you're, I don't want to say better equipped, but really you are with your education, your experience stuff. We'll be able to recognize it. My bag is getting a little too heavy. My bag is too heavy. It's time for me to start emptying some stuff out. But that self-awareness, Al, that's so true. That's a big part of it.
I will say you are better equipped. You are better equipped,
and you are
than most of us when we come through the door at this profession. You're coming through the door ready.
See, that's where
most of us are not.
Well, see, that's where I have this struggle, because I've gone back and gotten schooling as well on trauma counseling and crisis response, but I still battle with it. So, and I do think that time I spent with that learning helped me start to realize time to unpack. But the cop inside of me resists actual unpacking. I don't want to stop. I realize that okay, the weight's coming on, but then the cop is like, oh, I can carry it. That's where I fight.
Well, that's like, you have to unlearn that, right? Yeah. Especially when if you were patrol for 3 years and got out, it theoretically, at least, I don't know any evidence about this. But like, if I had a client come in who's 3 years patrol, as opposed to like a 20-year vet who is a sergeant LT, I'm going to tackle those problems. There'll be some similarities, but also a fuck ton of differences, right? What I mean? Because you have to unlearn that. And that's really hard when that's your identity for X amount of years, especially when you're in a position of power, making high, calls. You have to give briefings if there's a shooting or something like that. Like all these other things that you don't think about. And I'm not going to proclaim in the slightest that I'm a master of self-awareness. I struggle with it, but I recognize that I have a lot of interest in hobbies, and I try to exploit that, whether it's a 10-minute thing and doing something, or 30, or taking a whole day, and again, I think that if I could help people see that it's not linear, wellness isn't linear. Again, it could be, I did peer support with a guy who literally would metal detect at beaches not, but it's like scoop stuff up of beaches looking for sea glass
Mhm.
and make ornaments out or jewelry out of it.
Well, that is a
Like-
conversation that we've had more than once here about the importance of having people and things and activities that have nothing whatsoever to do
Yep.
with this job.
Oh yeah, that if there was one piece of advice I would give, I mean, there's obviously a lot in the upper echelon of like advice that I must say. Have one person, a friend. I don't care if it's a bartender, a business owner, truck driver, just someone, because one, they will have completely different experiences and perspectives about something than you will.
Yep.
Which is what you need. That's literally what a therapist does, right? A therapist
Yep.
does like offers a different perspective or perspectives on whatever said thing is. But also, again, you need to be able to not talk about your fucking, your days. You just need to be able to like, all right, I want to go hiking with, go hiking and or whatever the case, go swimming, go fishing. You should be able to do that. That's okay.
Yeah. And you're also talking too about getting to that newer generation,
Yeah.
those entry level people.
And they seem to be a little more open to,
Yeah.
which is
Much better
great.
than our generation.
Absolutely. And I've said, and I think we've said it here before, that the goal is that, the mental wellness in first responders needs to become just normal.
Yeah. Right.
You talking about going to see, or so if someone came to see you, they saw an incident, they need to be able to go to work and talk about that like as if they went to their dentist.
Right.
I had to go get a filling today. Nobody
Yeah.
gives a shit about that. Nobody's like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, that's cool. That sucks. Yeah, Novocaine, all, you talk about it like it's nothing. It needs to be the same thing. Oh
Yeah.
man, I went and saw Greg because we had that fucked up call the other day, and it was just,
Mhm.
we talked about that for a while, had a good conversation, man. It was good, and he's gonna come ride with us next week, and it
Yeah.
needs to be normalized.
Right. And I think, again, something else we've talked about, our generation, those people in their 40s and 50s now, we're coming around to it.
Yes.
I think
Oh,
we're
yeah.
coming around to it,
Mhm.
but it's late in the game.
Yeah.
And it's only after we've left a trail of destruction somewhere in there, some worse than others. Right. But we're late to it,
We are, but that's why I really like, Greg, that whole plan you have of that integration. I really do. I think that's a great forward step.
It's an excellent model.
It
appreciate
is,
it. Thank
and
you.
I'm hoping that catches on. If you're not trying something, then we're just not trying at all.
Exactly. And I would, even if we try it, if the department says, hey, we want you on, and it fails, okay, we tried it. I commend you so much for, putting investment in not even just me, but the model, the idea. And again, if it doesn't work, which I don't think that'd be it, but just say it does. Again, you tried it. That takes balls.
Well, you did, and then you can go, okay, this didn't. What's the next step?
Right.
What do I
Right.
need to tweak? What do I need to change? What to make it work? And you keep going from there. I mean,
Yeah.
they said when inventing a light bulb, they figured out what 400 ways not to invent a light
Yeah.
bulb is. So I mean, I think that's a great plan, great model.
I appreciate it.
So again, going back to the bosses a little bit,
Mhm.
Bean counting.
Yep. Yeah.
How do you navigate that? They go, well, I got to spend money on this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and you're asking me to spend money on this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is all based on the personality of the person as well as the backstories, right? If I'm going through a department that's riddled in low morale, maybe just that they have a peer support team or a SISM team and like they're known for leaks, I will be much more straightforward and blunt about what their intentions and motivations are. And I want them, the soup, whoever I'm speaking to say it. That's something I also just do when I do peer support. But it's a really effective tool because if you're going to sit here, just say, I speak to Chief Prophet and I say, hey, I mean,
Well,
yeah,
that's a scary thought.
it's a very scary thought, but that's why it's hypothetical. Just say, hey, Chief Prophet, I know that, there was a bunch of criticals in the past couple months, a lot of uptick in homicides. And and it seems like you had 10 people resign. What are your thoughts on that? I want to know what your thoughts are, why things are happening, ways to improve it. And even just based off of your responses, that's going to dictate how I respond. So I can't have one definitive answer, but what I would say is that it's all going to be based on the person, the backstory, the department, and what I'm hearing, what I'm perceiving. But I really need the person I'm speaking to give me something so I could be able to identify what they're saying and figure that out. If they're going to sit here and say, again, this all depends on the personality of the person, but if they're going to sit here and say, I don't want to spend money, there are many variants of how to say this, but I'd be like, so you're going to put a cost on your officer's well-being or provider's well-being. And if you're going to say, yeah, just own up to it. If that's like truly your perspective, I don't like it at all, but I respect you enough to admit it. Which is not a whole lot of respect, but if you're willing to just be honest, say, hey, I don't want to invest because I don't care. That sucks. That's terrible, but at least you're being honest about it. I understand that the other component of this is all about money. You can be the most forward thinking, hey, we want to have, all these cool things, but when it comes down to money, obviously that also throws a monkey wrench into things. So yeah, I don't have one specific way. It's all contingent on the person, the surrounding circumstances, whether again, it's morale, things that I've heard, recent events, things of that nature.
High incidences of unjustified use of force.
Yep.
Excessive call outs, like sick call outs and things like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yep.
Big
Response times.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like there are so many things that we don't, again, like you said, call outs, response times, even just the way they interact with the normal civilian population. Those are small
Complaint levels.
Yep.
To some extent.
Right. And that's what and those things to me, at least, like as a different perspective, that I go, oh, okay, something's going on.
I hope that some of this comes back to the long game as well,
Mm-hmm.
where if you're doing this work with an agency and it's going well and the agency really enjoys it, you're provided that they are, reaping the benefits from it and it's going well. Those chiefs, they all talk. They all go to conferences, go to meetings, stuff like that. And that's what it takes is that one chief go, this is the program we started over here and it has been phenomenal. We've got phenomenal feedback and, there is a cost, but it's money well spent because it's been so great. And then the chief goes, oh, really? Well, give me the card from that or give me the card. Here you go. Here's who you contact. And then it kind of spreads from there, hopefully. And the places that are resistive to spend the money or don't want to spend the money, like say, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to put a cost on it and that's out of our cost. Maybe they start to rethink and go,
well,
okay.
you sell it as a cost savings. You're going to spend money up front. Yeah, it's one more thing that you got, one more bill you got to pay every month. But, think of the money you're going to save with, reducing your sick call outs.
Such a good point, Al. That's such a good point.
You're dealing with, defending your officers when they've done something they probably shouldn't have. And now it's, on the 6 o'clock news.
Well, and
I think that's why some agencies are being progressive because they are seeing that it does save those things. So,
what's interesting is that like y'all are saying, well, I completely agree with everything it's saying, right? There's the literal cost, right? There's literal monetary value, but there's also the emotional cost, right? Again, if you having just say an officer takes their life because just for the very many various reasons that they would want to take their own life, you have to go to that funeral. Then you have to work, like the bad PR from it, everything, the morale it's gonna. So forget about like the actual literal costs that you're, there is the emotional and the psychological, and then there's could be guilt associated. There can be all these other fallouts. So there are a lot of unintended consequences aside from just the paying for it physically, that could happen as well.
Yeah, I would hope that as a law enforcement executive or leader, your goal would be to do everything you can to ensure the health and wellness of your employees. Really with the suicide stuff like that, I would want to go to sleep knowing that I am doing everything that I can feasibly do. We are doing everything as an agency. And if there's anything out there that we're not doing, we are working hard to figure it out and find out what it is and add that to our program. But we are doing everything we can possibly think of. That there's nothing on the table that we're going, we don't want to spend the money on that. We'll skip that. We are doing it all.
It's good to hear that you're getting some traction.
Yeah, absolutely.
With agency heads on this. I am cynical. Because I think you do have too many police executives that cannot see the forest for the trees.
Oh, well, yeah.
And in worst case scenarios are completely indifferent to this issue. But it is good to hear that you're getting some traction.
And you're absolutely right. I actually agree with you.
But I think that paves the way for the ones that are resistant.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Paves the way for those.
Agreed.
What's going to end up happening is they're going to alienate themselves.
Yeah,
they will look like idiots. Like they will look like sheer idiots.
And God knows a chief doesn't want to look like that.
Well, that's my point, right? but that's kind of like my point, right? If there's one thing they want to have that really good image. So imagine if, just say you're in Central VA and you have 15 out of 20 departments adopting some sort of wellness-based program. Those 15 are going to get a lot of good PR, a lot of good recognition.
Yeah.
You're going to have studies, probably going to have a lot of cool funding. Those 5 that are saying no or indifferent, they're going to look like idiots and outcasts.
Well,
No,
that's
that's excellent.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
And it's unfortunate. I don't want that to happen. I should just make it. I don't want that
Sure,
to happen.
but-
But that is like, okay.
Well, that's what happened with body-worn cameras.
Yeah.
As soon as
Yep.
the first jumped on the sword, they're like, "Oh, we got it.
Yep.
We're doing everything." It's like, "Oh shit, but we got to do it too because we don't want to be the only ones not doing it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they do it, and they're like, "Oh my god, these guys are doing it. We got to do it," and it just spread like wildfire.
Yep.
And
Yep.
people were grabbing them without even realizing, "Oh wait, how do we store all this data? Where is this going to go?" And they were just jumping on it
Yep.
like crazy. But it took that first one to go, and then man, it was a domino effect. Now,
Yep.
I'm not trying to say body-worn cameras are good or bad either. That's
Mm-hmm.
a whole nother topic of
Sure.
discussion. But as far as that technology and far as that program, the body-worn camera program, that's how it exploded. Was
Mhm.
that first one fell in the store, and everybody's like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Now,
and I
we
wouldn't
gotta do
feel
it
bad
too.
about it at all. I
No,
mean,
I-
peer pressure and a little bit of shame
Yep.
goes a long way.
I feel bad for the providers, not the chief or the person.
Right.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, if they have such issues with control and ego and
No.
which no chief ever has that. No chief ever has that.
Can we'll move on a little bit?
Sure.
And can you talk about the reboot recovery program?
For sure, of course I can.
Because that, if I understand correct, that's open to just people coming in off the street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had that on an episode with Carrie. We talked about reboot, so it'd be great to get
Yeah.
some more information on it again and kind of revisit that.
So reboot, actually, Carrie was one of my one of the participants when I was an instructor. Yeah, I don't care.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those who maybe don't know or unfamiliar, there's an organization. It's a nonprofit organization called Reboot Recovery. I think they're based out of Tennessee. I'm not an ambassador, so I'm just an instructor for the first responders course. But I believe they're based out of Tennessee or Georgia, one or the other. But it's a nonprofit. There are 3 types of reboot courses. There's the general trauma, which is open to anyone. There's military, which obviously military and military spouses, and first responder spouses, and children. And we're actually really big on that. Like that's something that our location out in Mechanicsville, we are really heavy, and I'll get into that later on. But about incorporating spouses, because again, very overlooked, underutilized intervention, as well as overlooked, underutilized population that doesn't get the respect, perspective, etc. that they deserve. They're kind of just sitting there watching their partner deteriorate in various ways. But anyways, with reboot, it's in its truest form, and I'm making that distinction because there are hybrid modalities that we're exploring. But it's a 12-week course. It is semi-structured. It is faith-based. Now, our specific location is held at a church. I understand that could be off-putting, but to put into perspective, I usually use I kind of talk about a visual, but if you have a paradigm of people who are religious, spiritual, whatever label you want to put on it, if one side you have that person that wakes up and they want to like go out of their way, like they're going to devote time, money, and effort to like spite a higher power, that person's not going to do well in reboot. On the flip side, if you have that person where they have to pray 30 times a day to their higher power, they probably won't do well either in the class. As long as you're not on either end of that spectrum, you're fine. We've had agnostic, spiritual, unsure, religious, semi-religious, pretty religious. What's also interesting is that for the instructors, that kind of is reflected too, right? You have instructors like myself who, if anything, I'd say more spiritual. If anything, you have instructor that is like, I go to church, but I don't pray. Like you have one that is pretty religious, and that also works with the people who are taking the course, because then you could figure out, hey, this instructor resonates with me more because he has more of a faith-based thought process. And that's really cool. It's 12 weeks long in its truest form. Each week there is one chapter that we discuss. We discuss all different types of trauma, ego, identity, purpose. Weeks 11 and 12. Week 11 is write your story. Week 12 is share your story. There are so many trickle downs from reboot, and I should also mention, just because I haven't, the one that we teach, it is free, it is confidential, 0 rank, no obligation to y'all. All we ask is that you show up to the first one. If you go to the first one and for whatever reason, scheduling, you don't like it, you're not ready, you get to keep the book, and I will personally be harassing you. Not harassing, but I'll be following up just say, hey, are we good? Anything I could do outside of reboot? You just want to meet up, grab coffee, whatever. typically what happens, and again, we get into heavy stuff rather quickly. Usually about week 2, week 3, that's when like we start unpacking that. That we start slowly taking the body, the plate carriers off. We start undoing the straps. We start taking the plates out. We start undoing the Velcro. And again, you'll see the people. You'll see it in their face, in their both verbal and nonverbal cues, body language, posture, whether they're fidgeting. You'll see them starting to work through this stuff in process. And I know we were talking about this like before this podcast started, but I feel very comfortable in making this generalization. There are 2 types of people, by and large, that will attend the first responder reboot course. There's the person who's already in services, such as therapy. Maybe they're on meds, maybe they're doing whatever, and they're looking to just maybe continuously work through post-traumatic growth, meet new people who have similar experiences, as well as just learn new tools. Then the other person is the person who just wants to get their feet wet, and that 1 of 2 things happens to that person. Either they excel in the class because they caught it early, or they do terrible and they end up not going to the course at all because they caught it early. Like 2 different, and like the person that does, whoa, caught it early, they're like, okay, I've come to terms that, hey, I have some stuff going on. I had a shitty childhood. I've run some terrible calls. Need some help. The other person's like, no, like almost like a denial response. Like, no, we're not, I'm good. Or I don't want to talk about this, or I can't talk about this, whatever the case may be. So that it's interesting to watch that phenomena happen. We have had the last course that I taught, it was all cops and all brought their spouses, about a total of 16 people. So it's a huge number. Recently, I've been giving presentations to departments, and something that I'm looking at doing, almost like a hybrid. And we've done this in the past. We collaborated with Hanover Fire EMS and their peer support team. Instead of doing a 12-week long, we did 6 weeks. So it was 2 chapters a night. We met at a VFW, which was closer to their headquarters. And we had a sign-up sheet, and we curtailed it to the schedule of the people who signed up. I've been giving them in the departments, and something I would love to do as well. And like, again, this all goes back to reimagining wellness and having a presence. Doing it in-house, they'd have to pay. They would have to pay for, on the books. Books are $20 to $30 each, not too expensive. And then, we would just have to logistically just figure it out, which isn't too hard. We just figure out, hey, if there's rotating, blah, 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 schedules or blah, 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 we get that squared away. But how cool would it be to have, so once you complete the course, you are eligible to become an instructor. So imagine if you're in a peer team, now you're an instructor and you have other tools that you could reference the book for. Also, the book is a reference. Like I have the books in my car. I can show you guys. It is a reference in and of itself. I keep it in my car all the time with me, both my instructor book and my participant book, to just kind of, if I'm ever going through something or need help and, for whatever reason I can't think, I go back and say, hey, we discussed ego in this chapter and I'm struggling with ego. What did I write, when we discussed it? What's also pretty cool about the one we teach at the church is that we offer childcare as well, because obviously that's a big burden.
Yeah.
So
if I'm listening to this show and I'm interested as an individual participating in one of the reboot programs, obviously our audience is, public safety, but how do we get a hold of you?
So I am very active on LinkedIn, Greg Podolak. I have terrible boundaries. You can message me at 2 a.m. I'll answer. I'll just FaceTime you. Like, hey man, what's going on? Yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest way to get a hold of me. If you go to the VALE Foundation's website, my personal number and email are on there as well. Okay. Everyone listening has my full consent to reach out to me. What I would suggest is just please put in the title, if you do want to email me, what you're emailing about, because if I just see a random email and sometimes you go to spam, especially, I won't look at it. So just put reboot or podcast, just something indicating to me that this is about something, not just they want to steal my And
is that valefoundation.org?
So it's valefoundation2020.org. But again, LinkedIn, I'm really active on. It's Greg Podolak. I'm really active on there. So you can always catch me,
Okay.
That's awesome.
Well, we will get your information up on our social media and hopefully spread the word.
For sure.
And those that feel they need to reach out and take advantage of that excellent resource, they can.
Man, Greg, it was great listening to your model, your program, what you have going on. It's great to hear. I always get encouraged when I hear about folks that are really driven and really motivated to make a difference in the mental wellness of first responders.
Yeah, I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for what you're doing, how you're doing it. the fact that you are still relatively young and just, so passionate and engaged in this. It's great to see.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks for coming on the podcast. Like Al said, I'll echo thanks for everything you're doing.
Of course, man. Plug just a few things real quickly.
Yeah.
Real quickly. One, to thank you for having me.
Of course.
And if I'm ever invited back again, I would love to do this again. All right. I collect challenge coins, swag, patches. For my office, I'm going to have a whole spread. So anyone listening who wants to donate, please, I will pay for shipping. Just let me know. I would love to. I don't care what you're affiliated with. Just please let me know. Again, wellness event, September 23rd, 511 Tactical in Shore Pump, Virginia. 30 organizations, free, open to the public. I think Torchy's is offering some sort of like promotional deal as well. We're having nonprofits, for-profits, gyms, podcasters coming through. Please, I don't care if even if you're just a civilian, you have no relation to public safety, you're just curious, come by. We'll be there. Well, we meaning us three here, we'll all be there, as well as many other cool people. Last thing, as corny as it sounds, no one's alone. I'm always here. Again, I have terrible boundaries. Anyone wants to talk, chat, pure sport, whatever the case may be, I'm around. So
awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Yep.
That was really good.
Man, it was. I feel like, we really jumped into the core of what this show is all about.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, Greg, you can, his passion really comes through.
Yeah, no, that was really encouraging. It was really great to see that, how, driven he was to be a part of, mental wellness for first responders and do everything he can do. It was really great.
Well, and not even that. It's also that aspect of working it in to our day to day.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I think he's on to something.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we definitely will need to have him back.
Yeah.
And stay on that. And we will put VALE and Reboot's information up on our social media.
Yep.
So folks can see and check them out and hopefully contribute to the good work they're doing.
Yeah, great programs. It was so great to have him on. We're looking forward to that VALE conference. But man, that was just good stuff, Al.
Yep.
But I think that wraps it up, Al.
I think it does.
Where can they find us? In the meantime,
they can find us at badgetothebone.com. They can also find us on Facebook at badgetothebone.
Also, shoot us an email at wearebadgetothebone@gmail.com. We are badgetothebone@gmail.com. But until then, be safe
and be well.